Hello and welcome to DANalysis, the show where I share my opinion and hopefully don't get crucified by Twitter. Recently I've been on a nostalgia binge, watching old YouTube videos from a decade ago that defined my childhood. Along the way I came across Dick Figures by Mondo. Once I rediscovered the show from this nostalgia binge, I wanted to rewatch it in the movie again so my 12-year-old little self was satisfied. There was one episode I felt like didn't get much praise as it is, and I'll be talking about that and more from other shows in today's episode. This script is weird. This list is in order by release date and not opinion. Remember that these are all my personal opinion and there will be spoilers for a few shots on the list. Kicking off the list is the Dick Figures episode mentioned just a few seconds ago. This episode is the Season 3 premiere, published September 22nd, 2011 on Mondo Media. It features Red and Blue partaking in superhero egos, with Red being Batman and Blue being his own hero he dubs the Blueser. After some banter about Blue's name,
better than freaking Batman.
Red sets out to find Chad Cop on the verge of dying from boredom and loss of color, which Red points out,
there's only one villain who could be so colorblind.
And that one villain is me, Earl Grey.
This episode has some action scenes, which I frankly adore in a simple style show like Dick Figures. I'm not here for the fights though, I'm here for the puns. There's so many puns in this episode, it makes me giddy. This entry will be kinda short, since I didn't want to spoil most of the puns or the action. The ending one is my personal favorite though.
You know what happens to criminals? They go to prison.
Oh yeah. Lord Tourette shines in this episode too.
Why, this shade looks perfectly gay on me! You're heroes!
I was a hero before it was cool.
Why this episode is on the list is because not many people appreciate puns as much as I do, so I might be cheating already with this one. Oh, that was hot. What the fuck? This episode acts as the series premiere of Bravest Warriors, published November 8th, 2012 on Cartoon Hangover. It introduces the main characters on a time loop adventure that's emitting from the Fart Sparkle Time Generator. Yeah, the machine is supposed to maintain the flow of time, but Fart Sparkle explains,
the generator's core is an artificial intelligence, and it's getting moody.
He dubs this phenomenon the Fart Sparkle effect.
You probably shouldn't let this guy name everything after himself.
Tensions rise when Gale points out that there's an identical group only 5 minutes behind them.
Gale, if you wanted my bod, you could have just—
Heavens, no!
Once they do get to the generator, the group ahead of them is seen dead, which means our group will be dead within 5 minutes. Gale confesses her feelings to a dead Wallow, in which our Wallow does the same. Once they kiss, the generator seems to be reacting to the romance, stabilizing everything. Wallow's glove Pixel, however, acts upon jealousy and throws Gale into the generator, killing everyone in the room exactly the same position as the previous group. Once the next group catches up, however...
No.
I first saw this when my buddy Eric from middle school introduced it to me. Hey Eric, how's it going? When watching this episode, I remember a lot of shade was being thrown at the show for being an Adventure Time ripoff. What? This show may be produced by the same people and have the same similar art style, but so does The Simpsons and Futurama. And y'all don't hear any complaining about that. Ian J.Q. voices Wallow. Appreciate that! Yes, I'm differentiating the original series before Space Race from this one, so don't hate me. This episode was the 6th of the Legacy run, published December 24th, 2013. A Christmas episode! Jesus, I feel old. It acts as a return to form mini-episode after the year-long hiatus. It features Matt partaking in a game of hide-and-seek with Tom and Ed, not knowing they're unengaged in it. Matt contemplates where to hide until he finds the perfect place, in which it cuts to Tom and Ed watching Professor Y, an obvious parody of Doctor Who. The rest of the episode goes back and forth with Matt in this winter wonderland, battling a burrito while Tom and Ed watches TV.
Don't worry, I just fixed it with my wrench, which is magical. Oh!
Would you look at that? The puns are back!
That's quite a mouthful.
When Tom and Ed get fed up with the TV show, Tom asks Ed if he wants a drink.
Cola!
Of course.
And finds out that Matt was hiding inside the refrigerator the entire time. I don't understand why no one talks about this episode. Probably because it was disappointing? I can see why they'd think that. Come on, the animation's fluid and neat. It's also got that shaky effect you don't see in cartoons anymore. Reminds me of Ed, Edd n Eddy. Good job, Tobias Knit. This mushroom is so adorable though.
You have returned to save us all! Yay! Amazing!
And the Burrito-Ranosaurus was no more.
Yay! Amazing!
Your savior has returned!
Yay! Amazing!
Here's an interesting one. This episode's published date is kind of a mystery now since the original upload was removed, but I can predict based on tweets that it was in February 2014. Why did you remove it, Steven? This season 2 finale starts off with a pretty cinematic rescue chase sequence with no dialogue and only a song being played over it. Steven has such a good taste in composition, I swear. At the end of the sequence, all the integral characters collide once again with Steve, Vince, and eventually Whitey being held captive by Baltor. It then cuts to Jeff above a pile of dead bodies of all things, hallucinating while this guy, I don't know his name, he's not credited, tries to inform him on the beast, with only giving up shortly to his soaking. We cut to Baltor interrogating Steve and Vince on wasting Stamos' time. Steve tries to explain he's trying to save the server, which gives a really funny gag from Stamos.
We're trying to save everyone in the whole server.
The only thing I need saving from is my car insurance. Save 14% or more by switching to Stamos Auto and Food Inspection.
That was very well spoken. Good job, sir.
I'm serious!
Steve then explains that they followed the alleged Builder and Destroyer into where they are now, mentioning Fisher is the only one who knows about it, but is currently malfunctioned from the previous episode.
I am teeth like a fucking shark!
I love Fisher. We cut back to Jeff and I'm gonna call him the guard since it's the only other name in the credits I don't recognize, walking away from where they were. The guard then explains how Baltor took over New Haven for control and power. Shortly after, the beast catches up with them, killing the guard on the spot. Goodbye, Mr. I don't know. I feel bad. Jeff escapes but is found by Googie and takes it for himself. Oddly enough, this is the last we see of Jeff and Googie for the entire series. We cut back for the final time to Stamos once again with one of the funniest lines.
You know, I thought they decommissioned this version of Fisher before I was king. I worked on the prototype. Fister. It was for my asshole.
Get me out of this in one piece and I'll backdate so fast you'll swear on your mom I was fucking in Alpha.
Okay, just hit him in the back of the head. He'll shoot out and go back to normal.
Easy, my cunt.
Enough.
Steve once again begs for mercy on being released until Vince pledges his demise.
Just kill us.
What?
When Steve tells him to quiet down, Vince lashes out at Steve on how narcissistic he is. They get into a short argument, which I think you should watch for yourself, before Whitey mutters the words,
I wanna go home.
Vince and Steve beg Whitey to sit down until...
I just wanna go home.
Fire!
This part made my 11-year-old self cry. After a whole season of getting to know these characters, he's killed right there. This is kind of why I made this review. Finding that the season resurfaced has me tearing up once again. It's just that impactful. Unless you realize he responds to season 3, which is cancelled after episode 3. Thanks for that, Supdick! This episode is the 7th episode in the series, published December 25th, 2014. Another Christmas episode! On Pymation's channel. What's the plural of Pymations? This is my favorite Meet the Amazing episode, yet no one agrees with me on it. The fourth wall break in the title card is so creative. It starts with Demo Man looking for a beer only to get greeted with a fridge with nothing but sandwiches. Turns out the soldier took the last one.
Those ones were my favorites!
He then notices a box of beer next to the fridge. He seems to be content with it and takes the whole box with him outside. After drinking one, it cuts to him sleeping on the control point with a few others cowering in the corner. Once Demo Man wakes up, Scout then explains,
You found a sword and started decapitating the entire red team. Frankly, that was pretty traumatizing to watch. I may never sleep again.
Medic then points out that Demo might be having issues with his alcoholism, in which Soldier reacts appropriately and strips Demo from beer and forces him to stay sober until he can control his drinking.
Did I stutter?
We then cut to a montage of Demo trying to sneak a drink with Soldier on his tail. This montage has some funny bits like this one.
Oh, good. A concussion.
After some time though, Demo proves to be an asset to the team, wiping out the entirety of the red team. Soldier notices this and gives him approval. Once Demo kills off his red team counterpart, a bottle of beer snatches his attention. He starts to reminisce of how much fun drinking was, so he takes a sip and... fucks everything up. He launches a rocket assumingly drunk, which Scout points out that it'll destroy both the bases if nothing is done about it. Soldier forces Demo to clean up the issue himself, bribing him with another drink.
Bloody hell!
Which berserks him once again. He successfully disarms the rocket, dragging both him and the rocket down via parachute. Everything seems fine until... Scout rearms the rocket.
Son of a cussing cuss word!
This episode is pretty admirable in the sense of the well-built story structure and improvement in animation quality. I also have to applaud Mike for using only video game character lines from Demo Man, which means he didn't have anyone voice act anything new for him. Total improv, nice job. It is kind of odd how the episode that features a black character gets the least amount of praise. I sense some underlying racism. Oh boy, this one's a doozy. This episode is the 5th in the series, published October 14, 2015 on the official DHMIS channel. Damn it! For some reason, this is the least viewed episode of the DHMIS series, yet it's the most interesting to me outside the finale. This episode starts off with yellow and green, just go with it, in a kitchen unaware that red is missing, but noticing something is off.
Is it this guy?
Fish and chips. Steak and beef. Chicken-a-chow. Grapes and eggs. Steak, eggs.
This loaf did nothing wrong and needs to be protected! Right after this, we're introduced to a can and a giant steak singing about healthy food. Green starts to notice that their advice on it is very contradictory. Then the telephone rings. He goes to answer, but is cut to him in a hospital bed. We get a nice shot of foreshadowing in this transition back to the others, which I didn't notice until now. Bad advice only worsens and Green starts to question once again until the phone starts ringing again. Once he picks up though, it transitions back to the kitchen where he continues to point out that
Something's wrong.
Exactly!
he keeps persisting to move on.
I need to go.
Oh, wait! What's this?
They keep persisting on giving advice. This anatomy thing then gives us the best noise ever. Then the fridge comes to life. This pulls Green to last string saying, we all know that Roy is seeing the camera drop, but no one seems to point out that Red is standing here as well. We cut back to the hospital bed in Green's point of view and catch a glimpse at a bigger can doing something. We start cutting back and forth to Yellow and Duck. Damn it! I said Duck. Slowly getting worse, with Yellow getting overwhelmed and Green being eaten alive from his organs. Ugh, I'm not gonna eat today. It ends with Yellow stuffed from what I can only call duck stew, green stew. The phone rings and it cuts to the credits with Red exiting a phone booth with a briefcase. I was originally going to review the 4th episode, Computers, from a suggestion by the editor of Figcast, Samir, but this one seemed like a better candidate. This episode is the 5th of the 2nd season, which oddly enough doesn't seem to have a publish date. What? Oh. I can only assume it published on YouTube sometime in early 2016 before moving to CISO. Streaming is weird. I love this episode with a passion for how it parodies World War II. It's a touchy subject, yeah, but they play it pretty safe. It starts off with the soldier being called by his wife asking when he'll return from the war. The soldier then replies that he probably won't be back ever. The twist, though, is that there is no war, and it's just an elaborate way to play poker away from their wives. The phone call repeats with another soldier before we're introduced to Adolf Hitler, who is portrayed as a prankster to the rest of the group. They cheer on before it cuts to a montage of all the soldiers having a grand time drinking and goofing around. This goes on until one of the soldiers brings their wife. Everyone then freezes at the sight, knowing that they've been caught. The wife then explains,
Well, carry on. Keep killing each other. Don't stop on my account.
the confused soldiers then start shooting each other, thus the war begins, and title sequence. I'll be skipping over a bit of the episode since I want to review the part that made me remember this episode the most. After a neat transition from the previous skit, we see a somber Hitler reading the newspaper, realizing how much of a dick he really is. He pulls out a gun in an attempt to shoot himself, but instead shoots off his iconic mustache and a lock on a safe. We get the best visual pun in the show, and see Adolf try on different mustaches as a disguise. He passes some guards seemingly scot-free until one of them confronts him with a picture of Adolf with his classic mustache if he's seen him. Adolf appropriately replies with,
9.
which convinces the guard until a worm on the picture helps him realize it's Adolf. He runs off from the chasing guards and goes on with escaping until this gag is repeated with a bushy beard. The guards finally corner him, ripping off stash after stash until we get to the iconic stash. It's a lot of stash. Where's the stash for my stash? This part's unscripted. Goofy music ensues when you realize
Get him!
it becomes a homage. I won't show too much for it's literally one of the best scenes Cyanide Happiness has to offer. After all this, it cuts to the future with an elder Adolf telling the story to his son. He writes the end in the book and proceeds to burn it in the furnace. Or fireplace. Why does it say furnace? And that's how it ends. Everyone seems to forget this show exists, possibly due to the fact that it was moved around platforms so much. And that concludes my list. There was a few episodes I left out for reasons I'll explain right now. Nanimate Insanity's Kick the Bucket, Kim Kim's Bonjour Bonquisha, and Sonic Mania and Sonic and Tails were all left out last minute because 1. Lists of 10 are overrated and I was getting a bit tired of editing the same project for about a month. 2. I wanted to save Kick the Bucket as a separate review. And 3. The other 2 episodes weren't in my highest favor of considering them underrated. The Weaklings pilot was originally on this list as the most recent entry, but was bumped out by Sonic Mania. I simply knocked it out since there was only 1 episode out. A second episode was teased, but that was 7 months ago. For Dick Figures, I would have gone with the season 2 premiere instead of the season 3 premiere. I quickly changed my mind with all the puns. I was debating on Wild Adventures' episode The Bear and End of the Line. I chose the End of the Line for its cinematography and heart-wrenching finale over The Bear's comedy and intensity. Did I miss any shows you would have put on the list as well? Say something down below. I'd like to rediscover some forgotten media. Thanks for watching my attempt at a review show. Who knows, maybe I'll do this again someday. DanDaMiniFig out.